We've repositioned the barrel now. We put the barrel in the chuck. This chuck happens to be a true chuck. Runs to 0. Now I've got to reset this at a different angle. The cone happens to be cut at 48 degrees. So we reset things, advance this, the lathe carriage down here, set our tool. Now instead of cutting externally, I'm cutting internally. Relationship to the bore of the barrel. Here's the bore of the barrel. I'm going to cut a cone in here. Let's cut at that angle. Changing gears here again. Taking all of our threading gears out of gear so that they're not running all the time and we don't need it. Now, advance this cutter, advance the other cutter, gradually cut this cone in the breech of the barrel. The reason for this cone in the breech of the barrel is that the bolt face, instead of being square across, it's coned like this. This makes an easy entry for a cartridge feeding from the magazine into the chamber. In my estimation, this is one of the greatest designs ever thought of, is this cone breech on a Winchester Model 70. There's also a cone breech on a 1903 or 1983 Springfield or 1917 Enfield. You do the same thing. You have to cut the cone in the breech of the barrel. No known actual depth that this has to go to. You have to fit, try and fit, just like I did with the thread. Clean my thread. Threading the action on the barrel. bit shy of the shoulder, perhaps a 1/16 of an inch. Take the bolt. I've removed the extractor. That's necessary to determine this final fit. Put the bolt in the action. The action at this point will not shoulder up on the shoulder of the barrel. Right now, this bolt is touching the cone in the breech of the barrel. This tells me that I have to take more material off the inside of the cone for this to fit. Now, the way to determine how much we need to take off of there, this is a feeler gauge. This is a feeler gauge. Thousandths, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, whatever. I grabbed one of these gauges. This one happens to be marked 20. I try that between the action and the barrel. Roughly, probably 30 thousandths I've got to take off that cone. I just tried it with a feeler gauge. The feeler gauge just went in there at 20. You don't want the bolt touching the cone of the breech. It's got to clear that by about 10 thousandths. So this means I've got to take the action off here. I've got to finish machining the cone. Advancing the cutter in here. I'm going to go in this cutter without anything running. I'm just going to touch that cone. I'm going to back this out. I'm going to set my dial here to 0. And this means that as I machine this, I'm going to cut 30 thousandths off the cone. That's off of the periphery of the cone. 30 times 2 happens to be 60. That's what I have to advance to get 30 thousandths. I'm going to take it only at 30 at a time. We're going to try this again, see if we're where we need to be. Notice that this action meeting just a little bit of resistance on the thread. That's how we want it. We want it fairly snug, not tight, but just a little bit snug. Tighten this up here. Back my bolt out. Got a 15-inch crescent wrench. This crescent wrench will fit right on this action. It's got a big flat on the bottom of the action. Put my lathe in low gear. Tighten this action up on the thread. Now we try our bolt. Just exactly right the first time. You need to feel just a little tiny bit of play fore and aft here, so that tells you that that bolt is not bearing up against the breech face of the barrel. Everything is just right. Normally it takes 2 or 3 times trying to fit that to get it to just exactly what you want. There are many procedures involved in properly fitting everything. If you look at the front end of this action, you can see that it's been machined fresh on the front end of the action. I machined that true before we started. This is a mandrel. This mandrel was put in the action with the bolt removed, threaded in there. This has a center.
Lift it up.
This has a center. With this mandrel threaded in this action, I've trued the face of the action true to the thread. Putting one end of the mandrel in the lathe chuck, the other end of the mandrel in the center of the tailstock. This trues everything up. I true every action that I ever barrel. There we are. It's true. We've completed these operations, and you'll see the rest of the operations of completely fitting and chambering this barrel here in our second half.